Jason wiped sweat from his brow as he adjusted the scanner on his wrist, the alien sun beating down mercilessly through the canopy above. The jungle of Rakar wasn't just hot. It was alive, pulsing with sounds and scents his human senses could barely process. 3 weeks into his resource mapping expedition, and the wonder hadn't faded. If anything, each day on this untamed planet brought new fascinations. "Base, this is Scout 1, he said into his comm unit. "Sector 712 looks promising. Mineral readings off the charts. Sending data now." A crackle of static. "Copy that, Scout 1. Data received. Any sign of the locals?" Jason chuckled. "You mean the Beastwomen from orientation? Still nothing. Pretty sure that's just the company trying to scare new surveyors." "Don't dismiss the briefings, Jason. Rakari warriors are documented in, at least." Yeah, 12 expeditions." "I know." He stepped over a fallen log carpeted with luminescent moss. "But I'm telling you, all I've seen are weird-looking birds and those 6-legged lizard things. No catwomen with spears." The senior surveyor's sigh was audible even through the static. "Just follow protocol. If you encounter natives, make peaceful contact, establish clear boundaries, blah blah." Jason grinned to himself. "Don't worry. I'm great with ladies, even if they have fur and fangs. This isn't a joke, Mercer. They're Kari are." A sound cut through the jungle noise, something between a roar and a howl that made the hair on Jason's neck stand up. He froze mid-step. "Base, I think I might need to call you back." He disconnected and slowly turned toward the sound's origin. Nothing visible through the dense foliage, but the feeling of being watched was unmistakable. Another growl, closer this time, vibrated through the humid air. "Hello," Jason called, trying to keep his voice steady. "I come in peace, and all that." The foliage parted, and Jason's cocky smile faltered. She was tall, at least 7 feet of corded muscle and sleek, tawny fur with dark markings. Her face was feline, but with unmistakably humanoid features. High cheekbones, a strong jaw, amber eyes that watched him with predatory intensity. A simple leather harness crossed her chest, adorned with what looked like talismans or trophies. Her lower body was covered in a wrap of some woven material, leaving powerful legs exposed. The Kari warrior, because what else could she be? Bared impressive fangs and released another growl, this one clearly a warning. Jason should have been terrified. Any sensible human would be. But something in him, the same reckless impulse that had gotten him into and out of trouble his entire life, took over. He laughed. Not just a nervous chuckle, but a full-throated laugh. "Sorry," he managed between breaths, "but that growl," he mimicked the sound poorly. "Is that supposed to scare me? I mean, impressive fangs, for sure, but the growl needs work." The Kari's eyes widened, her pupils narrowing to slits. For a moment, absolute silence fell over the jungle, as if every creature held its breath. Then she moved, a blur of motion that ended with Jason pinned against a massive tree trunk, powerful clawed hands holding him immobile. Her face inches from his, she spoke in surprisingly clear, accented English. "You mock my warning, human?" Her voice was low, almost musical despite the deadly serious tone. "You mock the call of Luna, first hunter of their car pride?" Jason swallowed hard, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. "Look, I didn't mean. To mock is to challenge," she cut him off. "I'll know this. I'm not from around here," Jason said, attempting a disarming smile. "Cultural misunderstanding. No offense intended." Luna's grip didn't loosen. "Ignorance does not erase action. You have challenged me before my ancestors and this forest." She leaned closer, her breath hot against his face. "You will prove your worth or be marked unworthy forever." Something about the way she said unworthy sent a chill down Jason's spine. "And if I'm unworthy?" he asked cautiously. Luna released him and stepped back, her posture regal and imposing. "Then you're no better than prey. You will serve or you will leave these lands forever. Your choice." Jason straightened his survey jacket, mind racing. The company protocols were clear: retreat and report if natives showed hostility. But another part of him, the part that had driven him to explore the stars in the first place, was intrigued. What exactly does proving my worth entail? Luna's expression was unreadable. You will face the trials as any who seek to stand as equal to Rukari. 3 tests. Survive the first, and you may attempt the second. Complete all 3. Her lips curved in what might have been a smile or a snarl. Then we will speak as warriors speak. Jason knew he should walk away. Return to base. File a report. But the challenge in those amber eyes stirred something in him. And if I refuse, then go. She gestured dismissively. Return to your metal, nest in the sky. Tell your kind this territory is claimed. But know that your mockery will be remembered, and no Rukari will ever see you as anything but weak. Pride, always his downfall. Jason straightened his shoulders. I'll do it. Your tests, your rules. Luna's eyes flashed with what might have been surprise or approval. Without another word, she turned and began walking deeper into the jungle, her movements fluid and silent despite her size. After a moment's hesitation, Jason followed. The Rukari village was nothing like Jason had imagined. Instead of primitive huts, he found dwellings built into and around the massive trees. Complex structures of wood, vine, and some translucent material that caught the dappled sunlight. Rukari of various sizes moved about with purpose, some carrying weapons, others tending to what looked like gardens growing up the trunks of trees. All activity ceased when Luna led him into what appeared to be a central gathering place. Dozens of amber eyes turned to stare at the human intruder. Luna spoke in a language that sounded like purrs and trills. Jason couldn't understand the words, but the reaction was immediate. Murmurs spread through the gathered Rukari, some looking at him with curiosity, others with open hostility. An elderly Rukari with silver-streaked fur approached. Unlike the others, she walked with a staff and wore elaborate garments adorned with crystals and feathers. Luna bowed her head slightly in deference. The elder circled Jason, studying him with pale yellow eyes that seemed to see through him. Finally, she spoke, her voice surprisingly strong. You have challenged our first hunter by mocking her warning call. Her English was more heavily accented than Luna's, but clear. Such disrespect has only one answer among Rukari. I didn't know, Jason began. Silence. The elder raised her staff. Ignorance is no shield. Actions have meaning, whether you intended it or not. She tapped his chest with her staff. You will face the trial of survival first. No weapons, no tools from your world. Only what you are given and what you find. Jason glanced at Luna, whose expression remained impassive. When do I start? The elder made a gesture, and 2 Rukari warriors stepped forward, relieving Jason of his pack, scanner, and comm unit despite his protests. Now, said the elder, Luna will lead you to the starting point. If you survive until the twin moons cross, you may return for the second trial. And if I don't survive, the elder turned away. Then you are never worthy to mock a first hunter. As Jason was led away, he heard the elder say to Luna, watch him, but do not interfere. We shall see what this human is made of. Luna guided Jason through the jungle for nearly an hour, neither speaking. Finally, they reached a clearing where a small stream cut through the otherwise dense vegetation. This is where you begin, Luna said, stopping at the edge of the clearing. Jason surveyed the area. Begin what exactly? Surviving. Luna produced a small knife made of what looked like bone and a pouch of some kind. These are all you are given. The blade is sharp enough if used wisely. The pouch contains salve for wounds. That's it. No hint about what I'm surviving against. Luna's expression softened almost imperceptibly. The jungle itself is the trial, human. Predators hunt at night. Plants can poison with a touch. Even the water may bring death if you do not know how to find the safe sources. Great. Jason took the offered items, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. Does the test have a time limit at least? Until the moons cross in the sky. She pointed upward. When the red moon passes before the white. If you live until then, return to the village. Jason did some quick mental math based on what he'd observed of Rukari's moons. That's almost 20 Earth hours from now. Luna turned to leave. then you should begin preparing. Wait, Jason called. Can you at least tell me why? Why is a growl so important that I have to risk my life for mocking it? Luna paused, looking back over her shoulder. The warning call is not just sound. It is respect. It says, I see you as worthy of warning rather than simply killing. By mocking it, you claim to be above such respect. Now you must prove if that claim has merit. With that, she disappeared into the jungle, leaving Jason alone in the clearing. Right, he muttered to himself. Survive alien jungle overnight with a bone knife. How hard can it be? As it turned out, very hard. The first few hours weren't terrible. Jason had wilderness survival training, standard for all planetary surveyors. He found a defensible position near the stream, but elevated enough to see approaching danger. He tested the water by observing which animals drank from it, then cautiously tried a small amount himself. He gathered what looked like fruit, again using the local wildlife as a guide to what was edible. But as Ricara's sun began to set, casting long, ominous shadows through the trees, the jungle transformed. Creatures that had been silent during the day began to call to one another, sounds ranging from high-pitched whistles to deep, rumbling bellows. The temperature dropped sharply, and a mist rose from the ground, reducing visibility to mere feet. Jason huddled in the crude shelter he'd built, clutching the bone knife. Every sound, every movement in the periphery of his vision sent his heart racing. Was something watching him? Had something been watching him all along? Come on, Mercer, he whispered to himself. You've been in worse spots. But had he? On Earth, he'd been a thrill seeker, rock climbing without ropes, surfing during storm warnings, once even running with the bulls in Pamplona. But those were calculated risks in familiar environments. This was different. This was true, primal survival against the unknown. A cracking sound to his left sent him spinning, knife raised. Two glowing eyes reflected the last dying light of day, floating about waist height in the mist. As Jason watched, frozen, more pairs of eyes appeared, surrounding his position. Oh hell! The first creature lunged, a sleek, low-slung predator with too many legs and a mouthful of needle-like teeth. Jason slashed with the knife, catching it across what he hoped was a vulnerable spot. The creature shrieked and retreated, but the others began to close in. For the next terrifying minutes, Jason fought in a blur of adrenaline and instinct. He used the knife, rocks, branches, anything he could grab. One of the creatures latched onto his leg, teeth piercing through his uniform pants. He stabbed down, feeling the sickening resistance as the blade found flesh, then the sudden release as the creature let go. When it was over, Jason stood panting in the center of his ruined shelter, bleeding from multiple wounds, surrounded by the retreating shapes of the pack. He'd survived barely. Slumping to the ground, he pulled out the pouch Luna had given him. The salve inside stung fiercely when applied to his wounds, but seemed to stop the bleeding almost immediately. Thanks for the medical supplies at least, he murmured, wondering if Luna was watching from somewhere in the darkness. The night was long, filled with moments of tense alertness followed by exhausted half-sleep. Twice more, predators approached, but none attacked with the coordinated effort of the first pack. As dawn finally broke, Jason was still alive, though fatigued, hungry, and increasingly doubtful about his decision to accept this challenge. The day brought its own trials. The heat returned with a vengeance, and Jason's water supply, a makeshift container made from large leaves, was running low. He ventured from his position to refill it, constantly scanning for threats. That's when he saw her, a flash of tawny fur among the green foliage. Luna, observing silently from a distance. Their eyes met briefly before she vanished again into the jungle. Just checking if I'm still alive, or hoping to see me fail, Jason called out, not expecting an answer and receiving none. As the long day wore on, something changed in Jason. The initial fear gave way to a different kind of alertness. He began to notice patterns in the jungle sounds, to distinguish between the movement of wind through leaves and the deliberate motion of creatures. He became less a frightened outsider and more a wary participant in the complex dance of survival. When night fell again, he was better prepared. He'd built a stronger shelter, found more effective weapons, even prepared traps around his perimeter. The predators came again, but this time, Jason was ready. He fought not with desperate fear, but with calculated precision, and when morning broke, his injuries were minor. Finally, looking up at the sky through breaks in the canopy, he saw what he'd been waiting for, the red moon beginning its journey across the face of a larger white one. The trial was ending. Gathering what few possessions he had, Jason began the trek back toward the Rukari village. He wasn't sure if he was supposed to find his own way or if Luna would appear to guide him, but after nearly an hour of walking, he caught another glimpse of her moving through the trees ahead. "I survived," he called out. "Does that mean I passed?" Luna appeared fully then, dropping from a tree branch to land gracefully before him. She studied him with those penetrating amber eyes, taking in his disheveled appearance, the dried blood on his clothing, the improvised tools he carried. "You survived," she acknowledged. "Few outsiders do. The second trial awaits." Jason couldn't help but grin. "What? No congratulations? Not even a well done, human?" The corner of Luna's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Survival is expected, not celebrated." "Cool, mate." As they walked, Jason noticed Luna studying him. With something like curiosity. "Why did you accept the challenge?" she asked suddenly. "You could have left. Most of your kind would have." Jason considered the question. Honestly, at first it was pride. I didn't want to back down. He pushed a branch aside. But out there, fighting to survive, I think I started to understand something about your people. And what is that? That respect isn't given here, it's earned. That warnings are a gift, not a right. He glanced at her. "Am I close?" Luna's expression remained neutral, but something in her eyes changed. "Perhaps you learned more than just how to survive." When they reached the village, Jason was surprised to find a gathering waiting. The elders stood at the center, flanked by other Rukari warriors. Jason became acutely aware of his bedraggled state compared to their regal bearing. "The human returns," the elder announced. "He has passed the first trial." A murmur passed through the assembled Rukari. "The second trial is the tethering," the elder continued. "Luna, as the challenged, you will be bound to this human from sunset to sunrise. If either fails, both fail." Jason looked at Luna in confusion. "Bound? What does that mean?" Luna's expression was unreadable. "We will be physically tethered together. Where I go, you must follow. What I face, you must face." "Like, tied together? With rope?" The elder produced what looked like a thin, braided cord that seemed to glow with an inner light. "This is not mere rope, human. The tether is sacred, made from the fibers of the spirit tree. It binds not just bodies, but destinies." This was getting more mystical than Jason had bargained for, but he'd come too far to back out now. "Okay, I'm ready." The elder approached and wrapped one end of the cord around Jason's right wrist. It was surprisingly warm to the touch and seemed to pulse against his skin. The other end was secured to Luna's left wrist, leaving about 3 feet of cord between them. "From this moment until the sun rises, your fates are one," the elder intoned. "Luna will lead, but you must keep pace. If the tether breaks, you fail. If you falter, you both fail." Luna met Jason's eyes. "Are you prepared, human?" Jason flexed his wrist, testing the strange bond between them. "Lead on, first hunter." As the sun set, Luna led Jason away from the village and into the jungle once more. Unlike his previous experience, however, this journey had a distinct purpose. Luna moved with confidence through the darkness, navigating paths invisible to Jason's eyes. The tether between them pulled taut when he lagged behind, offering strange resistance. Not painful, but insistent. "Where are we going?" Jason asked after they had traveled in silence for some time. "To hunt," Luna replied simply. "Hunt what?" Luna slowed her pace slightly. "The great serpents come to the pools to drink when darkness falls. Their scales hold power for our healers." Jason swallowed hard. "Great serpents? How great are we talking?" Luna's eyes glinted in the dim light. "Great enough to swallow you whole, human." "Wonderful." As they moved deeper into the jungle. Jason found himself becoming more attuned to Luna's movements. The tether seemed to transmit subtle cues. A slight tension before she changed direction, a gentle pull when she prepared to leap across a gap. Gradually, he began to anticipate rather than just react, their movements becoming more synchronized. They reached a series of connected pools, the water black in the night, but reflecting the twin moons overhead. Luna crouched at the edge, signaling for Jason to do the same. The tether slacked between them. They waited in silence. Minutes stretched into an hour. Jason's muscles began to protest the sustained crouch, but Luna remained perfectly still, her breathing so shallow he could barely detect it. He tried to mirror her stillness, focusing on controlling his own breathing, on becoming part of the jungle rather than an intruder in it. Then he felt it, a subtle change in the tension of the tether, a barely perceptible shift in Luna's posture. Something was coming. The water's surface rippled, then parted as a massive, serpentine form emerged. In the moonlight, Jason could make out iridescent scales the size of dinner plates, a wedge-shaped head with glowing blue eyes, and a forked tongue that tasted the air. The creature was easily 30 feet long and as thick as a man's torso. Luna moved with explosive speed, drawing a bone spear Jason hadn't even noticed she was carrying. The tether pulled him forward with her, his body responding automatically to the sudden tension. Together, they leaped toward the serpent, Luna striking with the spear, while Jason realized he had no weapon. The serpent reared back, hissing furiously as Luna's spear found its mark just below its jaw. But rather than retreating, it lashed out with its massive tail, sweeping toward them. "Down!" Jason shouted, grabbing Luna's arm and pulling her to the ground as the tail whipped through the space where they had been standing. The tether flared brightly at the contact, and for a moment, Jason felt a surge of something. Not quite emotion, not quite thought, but a connection that transcended both. He knew, somehow, that Luna felt it too. There was no time to dwell on it. The serpent struck again, jaws snapping. Luna rolled right, Jason left, but the tether between them pulled taut, halting their momentum. For a crucial second, they were trapped between their opposing movements, the serpent bearing down on them. "Together!" Luna commanded, and Jason instantly understood. They rolled in the same direction, the tether flowing freely between them, avoiding the serpent's attack by inches. What followed was a deadly dance. Luna striking with her spear, Jason using his environment, rocks, branches, eventually a sharpened stick he managed to grab. They moved not as two separate fighters, but as extensions of each other, the tether between them no longer a constraint but a channel, transmitting intent and awareness. Finally, Luna delivered a killing blow, her spear driving deep into the serpent's skull through one glowing eye. The massive creature shuddered, then collapsed into the pool with a splash that drenched them both. For a moment, they stood panting, facing each other across the body of their prey. The tether glowed vibrantly between them, pulsing in time with their racing hearts. "You fight unexpectedly well," Luna said between breaths. Jason grinned, adrenaline still coursing through him. "You sound surprised." "I am." She tilted her head, studying him. "You anticipated my movements." "I felt them," Jason replied, gesturing to the tether. "Through this, I could feel what you were going to do before you did it." Luna's eyes widened slightly. The tether responds differently to each pairing. Some feel nothing, others minor sensations. She looked down at the glowing cord. "This connection is rare." Before Jason could respond, Luna turned her attention to the fallen serpent, wading into the shallow water to begin extracting scales with practiced efficiency. With the tether still binding them, Jason had no choice but to join her, finding himself assisting in the gruesome but oddly intimate task. As they worked, something shifted between them. The initial antagonism, the predator and prey dynamic, gave way to a wary partnership. They spoke little, but communicated constantly through glances, gestures, and the subtle language of the tether. When the harvest was complete, Luna led them to higher ground. "We will rest here until dawn," she announced, settling against the broad trunk of a tree. Jason sat beside her, acutely aware of the tether still connecting them. So, we just killed a giant snake together. Does that mean we're friends now? Luna gave him a sidelong glance. Akari do not have friends, as your kind understand it. We have pride mates, rivals, enemies, and prey. Where do I fall on that list? Luna was silent for a long moment. You are. Not what I expected, Jason Mercer. It was the first time she had used his name, and something about the way she said it sent a shiver through him that had nothing to do with fear. Is that good or bad? It is neither. It simply is. She shifted slightly, bringing their tethered wrists closer together. You should rest. The third trial will demand all your strength. Jason wanted to ask more, but fatigue was catching up to him. He leaned back against the tree, closing his eyes. The last thing he was aware of before sleep claimed him was the warm pulse of the tether against his skin and the sound of Luna's steady breathing beside him. He woke to sunlight filtering through the canopy and the strange sensation of emptiness around his wrist. The tether was gone, though a faint mark remained where it had been, like a tattoo just beginning to fade. Luna stood a few feet away, watching him with those inscrutable amber eyes. The second trial is complete. We return to the village. Jason stretched, feeling muscles protest from the previous night's exertion. Did we pass? We survived. The tether remains unbroken. Yes, we passed. Something about the way she said, we rather than you, wasn't lost on Jason. The return journey was different from before. They walked side by side, rather than Luna leading, and though the physical tether was gone, Jason found himself unconsciously matching his pace to hers, anticipating her movements as if they were still connected. What's the third trial? He asked as they neared the village. Luna's expression darkened. Combat. A challenger has come forward. Combat. Like, I have to fight someone. No. Luna's jaw tightened. I must fight. For my position as first hunter. You have brought this challenge upon me by accepting the trials. Jason stopped walking. Wait, I don't understand. If I'm the one being tested, why would you have to fight? Luna turned to face him fully. Because in accepting your challenge, I bound my honor to your worthiness. If you complete the trials, my judgment is proven sound. If you fail, she left the consequence unspoken. Who's challenging you? Vraza, second hunter. She has long sought my position. Jason remembered seeing another Rukari warrior in the village, slightly smaller than Luna, but with a fierce intensity about her. So because of me, you have to fight this Vraza? It was always coming, Luna said, resuming walking. You merely provided the opportunity. When they reached the village, a tension in the air was palpable. Rukari warriors lined a large, circular clearing, weapons at their sides. The elder stood at one edge, her staff planted firmly before her. Across the circle stood Vraza, her dark fur offset by red markings painted across her face and chest. The human returns again, the elder announced. He has passed the second trial. Murmurs rippled through the gathered Rukari, louder than before. The final trial is at hand, the elder continued. Vraza has challenged Luna's right to sponsor this outsider. By our laws, they must contest this matter directly. Vraza stepped forward, her voice carrying across the clearing. Luna risks our pride by allowing this human to attempt the sacred trials. She has grown weak, allowing sentiment to cloud her judgment. Luna moved to the center of the circle, her posture straight and proud. I have judged this human worthy of challenge. His actions prove my judgment sound. Then prove it in combat, Vraza snarled, drawing a wicked-looking bone knife. Or yield your position to one who remembers what it means to be first hunter. Jason stepped forward, only to be halted by the elder's staff across his chest. This is not your fight, human, she said quietly. You can only watch. But this is happening because of me, Jason protested. Let me fight in her place. The elder's eyes narrowed. Would you dishonor her further by suggesting she cannot defend her own position? By our laws, only Rukari can challenge for rank. Your trial is to witness, to understand what your challenge has wrought. Frustrated, but recognizing the logic, Jason stepped back as Luna and Vraza began to circle each other in the clearing. The fight was like nothing Jason had ever witnessed. Both Hikari moved with preternatural speed and grace, striking and countering with precision that made human martial arts look clumsy by comparison. Vraza was aggressive, pressing forward with relentless attacks that forced Luna to give ground. But Luna fought with calculated patience, conserving energy, turning Vraza's strength against her. It was a strategy Jason recognized from their hunt the previous night, the same measured approach that had brought down the serpent. Blood was drawn on both sides, crimson stark against fur, a slash across Luna's shoulder, a puncture in Vraza's thigh. Each injury met with growls, but no retreat from either warrior. As the fight wore on, Jason found himself tensing with each blow Luna took, relaxing with each successful counter. The connection forged through the tether seemed to linger, allowing him to almost feel what she felt, to anticipate her movements as he had during their hunt. Then Vraza feinted left before striking right, catching Luna off guard. Her knife sliced deeply across Luna's ribs, drawing a pained snarl and forcing her to her knees. Vraza circled triumphantly, knife raised for a final strike. Yield, Luna. Admit your error in sponsoring this human. Luna's eyes found Jason's across the clearing. In that moment, something passed between them, a silent communication born from their shared experience. Jason nodded slightly, understanding without words. Trust. Belief. Luna exploded upward, not toward Vraza, but past her, executing a move Jason recognized from their hunt, the same role they had performed together to avoid the serpent's strike. Vraza, expecting a direct confrontation, was caught unprepared for the maneuver. Luna spun behind her, knife flashing, and suddenly had Vraza pinned, blade at her throat. I yield. Vraza gasped, dropping her own weapon. A roar went up from the gathered Hikari as Luna released Vraza and stood, bleeding but victorious. Her eyes found Jason's again, and this time there was no mistaking the connection between them. Pride, relief, something deeper neither was ready to name. The elder stepped forward. Luna remains first hunter. The challenge is settled. She turned to Jason. Human, you have witnessed the cost of your challenge. Do you understand now the weight of a mockery? Jason nodded solemnly. I do. Then the third trial is complete. The elder raised her staff. You have proven worthy to stand among warriors, to be heard as an equal. What say you now, human who mocked a first hunter's growl? All eyes turned to Jason. In that moment, he realized he stood at a crossroads. The company would be expecting his return. His assignment was to map resources, not become entangled in alien trials. The sensible choice was clear. Thank them for the experience, return to his ship, complete his mission. But as he looked at Luna, still bleeding from wounds she'd taken because of him, surrounded by a culture he was only beginning to understand, the decision made itself. I say I have much to learn, Jason replied. About respect, about survival, about what it means to be worthy. He stepped forward. If their Kari will have me, I would stay and learn these things. Surprise registered on several faces, including Luna's. The elders studied him with those pale yellow eyes. You would abandon your own kind? Not abandon, Jason clarified. But I found something here worth understanding. Worth becoming a part of. His eyes flicked to Luna briefly. If I'm permitted. The elder was silent for a long moment, then nodded slowly. It is not unprecedented. Others have joined the pride in generations past. She looked to Luna. First hunter, this human came as your challenge. If he stays, he is your responsibility. Luna stepped forward, her expression unreadable. I accept this responsibility. The elder nodded again. Then it shall be so. Jason Mercer may remain among us as a learner, until such time as he proves himself a true member of the pride or chooses to depart. A murmur of acceptance, not enthusiasm, but acceptance, passed through the gathered Hikari. As they dispersed, Luna approached Jason, her injuries already being treated by another Hikari with what looked like the same salve he'd been given. You surprise me again, she said quietly. Few would choose to stay. Few would have survived the trials, Jason replied with a small smile. Besides, I still haven't properly learned to growl yet. The corner of Luna's mouth twitched upward, the closest he'd seen to a full smile. That can be taught. In the days that followed, Jason sent a message to the company explaining his decision to remain on Ricard as a cultural liaison, a half-truth that would satisfy his superiors without revealing the full nature of his experience. His equipment was returned to him, though he found himself using it less and less as he adapted to Ricari ways. Luna became his guide, sometimes stern, sometimes surprisingly patient as she taught him the ways of the Pride. How to move silently through the jungle. How to read weather patterns in the behavior of animals. How to hunt not just for food, but with respect for the balance of life. Other Ricari gradually accepted his presence, some with curiosity, others with indifference. Vraza maintained a cold distance, her challenge defeated, but her suspicion of outsiders undiminished. Weeks passed, then months. Jason's body hardened, adapted. His senses sharpened. He learned the language of the Ricari, with its complex tones and subtle nuances. He earned the right to participate in hunts, in gatherings, in the daily life of the Pride. And through it all, the connection with Luna deepened. It was never spoken of directly, but it was there in shared glances, in the synchronicity of their movements when they hunted together, in the quiet conversations beneath the twin moons. Then came the night of the bonding ceremony, a ritual the Elder had decreed Jason was finally ready to undertake. If successful, he would be formally accepted as a member of the Pride, no longer a guest or an outsider, but one of them. The ceremony took place in a sacred grove where the trees grew so tall and ancient their canopies created a natural cathedral. Luminescent plants cast the gathering in an ethereal blue glow as the entire Pride assembled. Jason stood at the center, dressed in ceremonial garments the Elder had instructed him to wear, a simple wrap of woven fibers dyed with natural pigments that matched the markings of the Pride. Luna stood across from him, her fur adorned with ceremonial markings that highlighted the powerful lines of her body. For once, her expression was openly emotional, a mixture of pride and something deeper, more personal. The Elder stepped forward, staff in hand. Jason Mercer came to us as a challenger, she announced, her voice carrying through the grove. He has learned our ways, hunted our prey, shared our victories and defeats. Tonight, we determine if he is truly of the Pride. She produced a familiar cord, another tether, this one more elaborate than the first, woven with crystals and feathers. Unlike the trial tether, the bond tether is permanent, the Elder explained to Jason. It does not bind flesh but spirit. It cannot be seen, but it will always be felt. Once made, it can never be broken. Jason's eyes met Luna's across the circle. I understand. Do you? The Elder challenged. To be bonded is to be one with the Pride forever. You will never again be fully of your own kind. You will carry us with you always, as we will carry you. Jason didn't hesitate. I understand. I choose this. The Elder nodded, satisfied. Luna, first hunter, you have sponsored this human through the trials. Do you now accept him as Pride Brother? Will you stand as his bond guardian until he needs no guardian? Luna stepped forward. I will. The Elder wrapped one end of the tether around Jason's wrist, the other around Luna's. Unlike the first tether, this one seemed to sink into their skin, the glow spreading up their arms before disappearing entirely, leaving only a faint, shimmering pattern like a tattoo where it had been. What was separate is now joined, the Elder intoned. What was foreign is now familiar. The Pride accepts Jason Mercer as its own. A sound rose from the assembled Ricari. Not quite a cheer, but a harmonized growl that resonated through the grove, through Jason's very bones. Without thinking, he joined it, his human voice finding its place in the collective sound. Luna's eyes widened in surprise, then crinkled with what Jason now recognized as pleasure. His growl wasn't perfect, might never be, but it was genuine, and it was accepted. As the ceremony concluded, Ricari approached to touch foreheads with him briefly, a gesture of acceptance he had learned was reserved for Pride members. Even Vraza, still bearing the scars of her defeat, acknowledged him with a curt nod. Later, as the celebration continued around them. Luna led Jason to a quiet spot at the edge of the grove. "You have changed," she observed, studying him in the dim light. "Not just in body, though that too. Your spirit moves differently now." Jason smiled. "I had a good teacher. You had the will to learn." "Not all do." She glanced at his wrist, where the faint pattern of the bond tether still shimmered. "Did you feel it?" "When the tether was absorbed, I felt connected. To you, to all of them. Like finding a piece of myself I didn't know was missing." He looked at her curiously. "Is that normal?" Luna shook her head slightly. "The bond affects each differently. Some feel little change. Others feel much." She placed her hand over the mark on his wrist. "For me, it was like the jungle finally accepted my presence after a lifetime of merely tolerating it." The intimacy of the gesture, of her words, hung between them. Jason covered her hand with his own. "When I first came to her car, I was looking for resources, things to take back to Earth," he said quietly. "I never expected to find something I wanted to be part of instead." Luna's amber eyes held his. "And now I understand why you growled at me that first day," Jason said with a smile. "You weren't threatening me. You were offering respect, seeing me as worthy of warning rather than just killing outright." "You were always worthy," Luna replied softly. "You simply needed to discover it for yourself." In the distance, the sounds of the celebration continued, but in that moment, there was only the two of them, human and Ricari, so different and yet connected by something that transcended their differences. The bond tether might be invisible now, but Jason could feel it between them, a connection that had begun with a mocking laugh and a challenge, and had become something neither could have imagined. Luna's hand tightened on his. "Kulme, the pride waits to hunt with its newest member." Together, they returned to the celebration, not as first hunter and outsider, but as equals, as pride mates, as something that perhaps had no name in either of their languages, but was no less real for that. And as the twin moons rose above the ancient trees of Ricard, Jason Mercer, once a cocky surveyor, now a proud member of the Ricari Pride, lifted his voice in a growl that was finally worthy of respect.